Hey everyone, joining us today is actually Winter and Meredith, better known as the Winnebago Girls. Ladies, how are you doing today?
Good.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. This is exciting for us, so
Yeah, same.
really appreciate it. So yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, the story is absolutely amazing for anybody who I'm sure everybody knows who you guys are, but like in the NSYNC world. But for anybody that doesn't, can you guys just give us a brief we call it elevator pitch. Who are you guys and why what your role is and I guess in NSYNC history.
Meredith, I'm going to let you do it.
I'll take that one. Well, about 20 years ago, on the Celebrity and PopOdyssey tours, Winter and I won a motorhome on The Price is Right. And then we quit school, quit our jobs, jumped in the motorhome and followed both NSYNC tours. So we went to 75 shows over a few month period and ended up picking up some kind of media attention on the way and had a website and all that. So then we kind of became known to the fans and eventually to the band. And yeah, that's kind of who we are.
wow. You guys had a website?
That was good.
We did at the time. It was nsyncfanbus.com, which is since defunct, but we were
Right.
updating people from the road at each stop and putting up pictures and stuff like that.
Wow.
And mind you, this was like back when the internet was fairly new. So it was a whole different ball game. I mean, it was not what it is today.
Right.
But-
Jacob is 21 years old.
Yeah.
I'm 36,
Yeah.
37. So
Oh my God.
always on the show, I'm sort of always explaining to him how things worked back then. So we may have to do that along the way.
Yeah.
You guys have a unique distinction of being the biggest fan that we've ever had on the show, including Jacob, because one of our things that we kind of go back and forth on a lot is that he is such a huge fan. I always kind of make fun of him for it, and I'm his uncle actually. So I've been, like since the womb, literally, and that's no joke. He was listening to NSYNC.
Aw.
Yeah.
That's how I got into it, is because he'd make us watch the Madison Square Garden thing as a 2-year-old, like
Aw.
over and over again. So he's an infant at the time that this is happening for you guys. So you guys
That makes me feel so old.
no, but the thing is that he is such a he's the only other person that I think that would do what you guys did. Like he would leave tomorrow if given the chance and join you guys if you were doing this again. But I wanted to go back to first, let's just go back to the beginning. Like, how did you guys meet? And then take us through like the early years that you guys kind of getting to know each other.
We went to high school together. So we lived in Park City, Utah at the time. But we were not really friends in high school, which is kind of ironic. We became closer friends like in college. We ended up rooming together. And then we were 21 when we became NSYNC fans. I mean, it was kind of like a running joke because boy bands were so big at the time. But I was just gonna say, when you're 21, it's not cool to like a boy band, but clearly
me excluded.
See, if you make a podcast, or in your guys' case, you get a Winnebago, go across the country and do a website, it all works. You know what I mean? You make it work for yourself. But what was the first time you guys remember hearing? I guess both of you probably heard them separately. Do you remember that moment? There's like the moment a lot of people, like our older generation from us, talks about, like seeing the Beatles on Ed Sullivan and that kind of thing. Did you guys have a moment where you first discovered NSYNC that you remember?
Well, as Winter was saying, we kind of started liking them as a joke. And for her birthday one year, I got her In the Mix, their, tape. It was a VHS at the time, which you'll have to explain to your nephew. But we popped that in. And I think from just watching that the first time, we became genuine fans and we're like obsessed with it. And that tape never left our VCR. I mean, it was constantly running. We'd come home between classes. We were seniors in college and we would come home between classes and watch it, or we'd skip class and watch it. And I mean, that's when I became a genuine fan and was like,
what was the impetus of the joke? Because I'm going to get really great. This might be different than other interviews I've done because I like to get really granular. So, like I had a similar experience with Kenny Loggins where it was a joke on album cover in college, and my friend and I like we popped it in and we're like, oh my god, this is the best thing ever. Fast forward, and we were huge Kenny Loggins fans now, but it was the cover of High Adventure. I actually have it back on my wall somewhere here, covered by this junk. But what was it about them that was the joke like for you? What was funny? Like, because obviously there was something about it you kind of liked though too. So can you tell me your thoughts? You know,
we talk about this. We can't like remember exactly, but I know there was some like I know that I thought JC was cute, right? Like that was kind of like our joke. And so she bought me the JC poster and in the mix. And then as soon as we watched, and I also think there was this idea that, because they're all about our age, but all their fans are 12, you know? So it was like weird to be their age and like them. It was almost like that wasn't something anybody did. So as we started to watch them like perform and, you know, just their chemistry and all that stuff, it was like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, we went hard, like, and it's weird because we both went hard. You know, it wasn't like one of us and it's a joke to the other one, or kind of like, it was just a really like, just this overwhelming. And then I don't know. Well, Jacob, did you ever get to see them then, or had they already broken up?
My dad actually got to see them in concert, but again, I was like 2 years old. It was on the PopOdyssey tour.
And his stepmom actually worked at Jive Records.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Oh,
so
awesome.
But he was too young, unfortunately, to experience.
So what I was gonna say is that if you had the chance to see them live, they put on such a fun show. I mean, they're so talented, but also just they're so entertaining. So I mean, once we actually saw them, then it was like, forget it. I mean,
Well, what was that first? So I guess, can you help me out with timeline here? Because you guys are seniors in college. You in the mixtape, did you discover them before No Strings Attached came out? Because I mean that was really when that came out, I mean that exploded. So was it before that time or was it after?
Just before No Strings Attached, because we both remember getting the album, like skipping school that day and going to the mall and getting the album. But it wasn't too much before that, right, Winter? It wasn't like Europe days. It was just
they were definitely huge, like when we dove in. It wasn't, you know, we weren't like from the beginning, like when they were playing at fairs fans, like they were like on TRL every day. Like they were the, you know, I mean them and Backstreet Boys, obviously. But so it was, because we went, that's when they did their No Strings Attached tour, we went to as many cars as we could or at as many shows in our car. So we just like because we lived in Utah, so all the surrounding states we hit basically. And that's when we ended up going on The Price is Right, when we were in LA for the LA show.
Wow. So what made you guys decide to, I'll just, there's so much here because I'm just so curious. It's just so amazing to me. So you guys decide you become fans of the group. The No Strings Attached tour was happening in the summer of 2000. You guys had just completed your senior year, or you're about to be seniors in?
No, we were, we had we each had a semester left, right?
Well, we were about to be seniors after the No Strings Attached. They did a fall leg of that tour as well.
Yes. Okay.
So in the fall, we were in school at the time. Yeah, I know. Our timeline, we're like, it's 20 years ago.
No, that's okay. Because I just, like I said, I get granular because I'm so curious about this stuff.
It makes sense to do a timeline, but it was Thanksgiving weekend. So that's how I knew it was in the fall that we went on The Price is Right and Meredith won. So yeah, it was I think it was like the tail end of the second leg of the No Strings Attached tour.
Gotcha. Okay. So you decide to go see them. Tell me about do you remember the first show that you went to, and what was that experience like when you see them? Because again, you've seen them, I don't even know, we'll see if you have a number, an actual final number here, but what was it like that first time? What can you guys tell me about that experience?
Winter, was it Salt Lake? Was that our first show?
Yeah, it was Salt Lake.
The thing I remember most is just because, you know, that show opens with them hanging on the marionette strings, and just I can still conjure up that feeling of just knowing you're in the same room as them and you can see them in actual person hanging on those ropes and just like screaming your head off. That moment I remember so vividly. And then, yeah, it was just a whole nother level from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing seeing Winter's face as you describe it. Like I could see that she has the same, you don't even have to say a word. Like you have the same sort of feeling like about that. That's so great. And what was it about, like how long did it take you then, and take me through then, deciding to actually say, okay, we're gonna go. How many shows did you go to on that leg? And you're in your own car, like you said, so you have just you have school going on, you have families, so you decide to go in your car, and just how many shows did you go to for that leg?
Well, we did. So I think actually, Mayor, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think the Salt Lake show was in the summer that we went to. I think, and then we decided, because they were going to do a second leg, and that's when we decided like we have to go. We have to go to as many as we can, right? But so we had one to go to, because we're seniors in college, like we had no money, like and like nobody is helping us finance this weird obsession we have. So we won tickets to go to the Salt Lake one with our local radio station. Like they did a week of NSYNC like contest, and we entered every single one, and we didn't win any of them. And then they finally like made a special one just for us so that they could give us tickets, because like they felt probably just bad for us seeing our age and everything. But anyway, so we then decided, we were like, we have to go to as many as we can. And that's when we were like, how are we going to pay for this? And we were like, game shows, obviously. We'll go on a game show.
So wait, I just want to make sure. So the Price is Right thing you did as a means to go to more shows, to win money. 100%. It wasn't a separate thing.
No, we literally came home from that Salt Lake show. And I remember this conversation so distinctly too, because we were like, okay, they're doing a second leg. We have to get to as many shows. And we were like dead serious. So we're like, we need a lot of money. We need it fast. How do you get fast cash? And then we're like, game shows. And then so we started trying to go on game shows.
My gosh.
That is so unbelievable. I can't believe it. I cannot believe that.
I know.
So you guys, so you decide to go on The Price is Right. I mean, what else is supermarket sweep? You probably can't get much money.
This was when Who Wants to Be a Millionaire was really huge too. So I called into that, and it was so big that you had to put in your social security number because you only got one try at it. And I completely effed that up. So then we knew we were going to be in LA for an NSYNC show that we already had tickets for.
Remember, we didn't even end up going to that show. We had meet and greet. We had meet and greet. We had so back then we were like members of the fan club, and it was the meet and greets for lotteries, and we literally entered every meet and greet. Like we were like, we'll go anywhere, we win them. So normal people would just enter the one in their city. So we had won the LA one for the LA show. So we didn't have tickets for the show, but we were going to drive and meet them because, like, obviously. And so that's why we were like, we'll try to go on The Price is Right while we're in LA. And so I think it's similar now. I think you just like write in and get tickets, or, ask for tickets. It's not like a big, I think they actually now are trying to get people to go to The Price is Right. Not what it once was. So we ended up getting them for the weekend we were going to be here, or whatever day we were going to be here. And then we just agreed, like, whoever got called up, like, obviously, I love that we just assumed one of us was going to get called up. Just a complete assumption that whatever we won, we would sell, and then we would use that money to go on follow the tour. But we happened to win a motorhome.
But the other thing with the motorhome too, though, is that we had an actual joke about a motorhome, because we used to bank at the didn't we have like a joint banking account? But we went to the bank and there was a sign that says take out your RV loan. And so we're like, oh my God, how pissed would my mom be if we took out an RV loan to follow NSYNC? And then we decided, okay, well, we'll win an RV. And so we were talking about that, like all the way up to The Price is Right. We're going to win an RV and we're going to follow NSYNC. And I actually told the producers that, like, when they ask you, where you're from and what you do. And I'm like, oh, we're from Utah. We're following the NSYNC tour and we want to win a motorhome so we can keep following whatever. I don't know if I told the producers, but I told other people in line, because that was like the plan, motorhome.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Was anybody, like, was this calculated at all? And because when you see the clip of you on the show, like on your Instagram and everything, like you're wearing an NSYNC shirt, were you hoping that like you would be able to meet them, or was it just like all like you were just doing it and weren't kind of thinking about what you were doing? You were just going for it and not really calculated about it.
Well, we showed up, so we had to get there. We were supposed to get like to the CBS studios really early, like on the morning of the taping. And we woke up late and we missed the first taping, like the one we had tickets for, but we went anyway because there were multiple like tapings. So they said we could come back and try for the second one. And we didn't have like matching outfits and I didn't like, I mean, I knew the Price is Right, but I didn't realize that like everyone was all full out, totally like done. You know, they all had their, we didn't, we were just like two girls. So we walked across the street. At the time there was a Kmart. It's not there anymore, but we're like, oh, we'll just go find something to match. And we found in the little boys section, these 2 NSYNC shirts, like they were the only 2 there. And so we were like, well, we have to buy these, obviously. So we bought those, and then these horrid, gigantic clown sweatpants.
One of the biggest regrets probably of my life. Every time I watch that tape, I'm like, what the hell am I wearing? Those sweatpants are like extra, extra large.
I know I don't think we got like the little boy shirts and then like XL men's pants.
Balloon pants.
But we thought it looked cool at the time.
I know.
But that's the way they dressed before in the right, Jacob, before.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Patch, they wore
the baggy pants.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess it all worked, right?
We were going for that look. It was bad. So we went down into the really gross Kmart bathroom and we bought little white stickers. So we made the shirt say "I'm in sync with Bob," because I'm kind of impressed by that little slogan.
I know.
Yeah.
On the fly. Anyway.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like that, you know, when you see that or hear about that, I mean, you guys, I mean, it's like you almost like hack your way, you know, in like kind of realizing, hey, we should match and we should get NSYNC shirts and like we should write that on there. I mean, this is like, you know, I mean, it's again, it's so fascinating. I keep saying that, but it really is. What about, so then on the show, so when you get called up, like tell me about that moment. And because I don't even know how it actually works there. I mean, is it as random as they make it seem? I mean, because you got to like your plan is to go and win prize money, but like there's no guarantee that you're even going to get a shot to do that.
Right.
No, yeah.
Yeah, and we didn't know how they chose contestants, but as they start to pull you in, they stop you in groups of like 5 people, and it's producers, and they ask you where you're from and what you do. And so everyone, that's your chance to like show your personality and try to like be spunky or whatever. So yeah, I told them we were following NSYNC on tour, and that got a chuckle somehow. And so yeah, we kind of had, I think we were just like, you know, goofy and so yeah, then they file you into your seats, and it's all really surreal. It happens really quickly. They don't really explain what's going on. And then the music starts, and Bob Barker's coming down, and they just call your names. And luckily they also hold your name up on a poster board, because it's just so like crazy, all the lights and sounds and cheering, and I didn't even really hear my name, but I saw it on the poster board. And so then I was like, ah! Like I ran down, and it all happened.
Mary, you got called, because it's like the first, you know, like the first group of people. So you haven't even like settled in and like watched a little bit of the game. It was just like from the get-go, like she's out of her seat. And I mean, it was so fast. Like, and then she played the first game also. So there was just no time to like, it was super overwhelming.
I mean, not to spoil everything, but at the time, I mean, it was the largest win, right, ever on Price is Right.
Yeah, the largest single prize.
20 to 30 years at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was the largest single prize. So like there were showcases, I think, that were worth more, but at the time, it was the biggest prize.
Did you study up? Because there's like strategy to that game. That's the thing. You have to
we hardly made it there in time for the show. Like we didn't.
so going. I mean, so there was not. Did you watch any episodes of it like leading up to it? You just
No.
I mean, growing up, we did like you're like homesick from school. You watched The Price is Right. Like, this is what you did. So like, of course, like we had seen it, but no, we didn't. And that's kind of the like ironic thing. Like, I mean, I thank God she got called up because I would have just bombed the game. Like, I mean, there's no way. I don't know how you did it, honestly. Like, I mean, yeah.
I don't either. It sounds cheesy, but I swear to God, there was just like a little angel in my ear just telling me the answers. I swear, because I had no idea. Especially that initial bid, like how much does a TV cost? I'm like, I don't know. So it was just, I don't know where the numbers came from, but they just came out, except for the last one. But,
So that last one, I've heard you talk about this before.
Yeah.
Tell us to set up that last thing and what you're faced with when they have the last prize. They have the numbers there and you have to fill in a number. Take us through that and tell us what happened.
So leading up to that, so you have to pick the missing number of the price using the numbers from the price of the previous item. So I won like a heavy bag and then a wood burning cook stove. And then when the curtain opened to show the motorhome, that moment, just seeing it was more exciting than actually winning it, because we had literally just told people like, we're going to win a motorhome. And the woman in the audience next to Winter grabbed her arm and said, you guys knew. How did you know? It was,
wow.
I mean, it was over the top. So yeah, it was just so surreal. And then my choices were 1, 4, 9, and 5. And I swear to God, I looked out at the audience. This is the first time I looked at Winter, and it was
Thank
like
God,
everything was a blur, and there was like a spotlight on her, and she just held up a confident 5, and I just like gave her a nod because, obviously 5 was our lucky number because of NSYNC, and so then yeah, I didn't hesitate at all. I just said we're going with 5, and boom.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it was so surreal.
So what happens like immediately after that? I'm always curious. Like, you have this amazing moment, it's on TV, and what do you guys do right after then? You leave the studio. Where do you go? What do you do? Do you call your family? Like, what did you guys do immediately after leaving there?
Am I making up that we had to call from a payphone? I feel like we called our parents from a payphone, but
maybe because didn't we get our first cell phones right before we went on tour?
Yeah, I know we didn't have cell phones, so I think we did. I think there was like a payphone at the studio that we used. Like, I think we each got one call, like we were in jail. we did. I called my dad because we were staying with him at the time because he lived in Orange County and in California, and then she called her mom back in Utah. So I don't. It was so. It's weird because like I still get like this when you get super super excited and then you crash kind of after. Yeah. Like I feel like we crashed like on the drive home. Maybe I feel like we were crying and just like it was weird. Like it was.
But also on the way to the car, didn't we immediately say we're going to quit school?
Yeah, I think so.
We're like, oh, well, we're done with school. Like, screw that.
So you've done three and a half years, all those semesters, 7.5 semesters. We're done.
We didn't care at all.
We didn't. I know. We didn't even think.
I know we kind of glossed over it really quick, but I want to jump back to so you guys were in LA for the meet and greet. Did that already happen before this, or was that So then I have to ask, first of all, I want to ask you about meeting them for the first time, but did you tell them that you were going to be on The Price is Right?
No.
Tell us about the meeting.
The meet and greet was super like a big letdown. Like we had just, I don't know what we thought was going to happen. Well, I think we thought that they were going to like want to hang out with us. Like, you're just delusional.
Yeah, of course.
We were completely delusional. And
Jacob still thinks he's going to like hang out with all of them someday.
All right.
Well, no, but we ended up getting to, just not at the meet and great. So keep thinking that, Jacob. It's not, I mean, it's not unrealistic. It's unrealistic in a meet and greet environment. That's something.
Right.
That was just, it was like, they hardly looked up, they signed something and handed it to you. And it was awkward because like I mean, I'm assuming now I've not been to a meet and greet, but like that you can do selfies or stuff like that. But like back then, you had a real camera. So like one of us is taking pictures and then you're like nervous and you're having them sign something. And, you know, it was like, we were like, I think you cried immediately after.
Yeah, I did. Cause we had these big scenarios. Like I chose like the dorkiest picture ever of them to sign that I was like, oh, they'll think I'm hilarious. They'll look up and like laugh at how stupid they look. And we'll be like, yeah, you guys are cool. Oh, look, you guys are older. They're like us and da, da, da. And then she had him sign a ticket stub from just the night before, 2 nights before. And we had seen them in Vegas. And it was just like, I mean, they didn't even look up. One looked up for the ticket stub for you. Was it Chris?
No, Joey, remember? He's like, oh, it's like, oh, I remember you, but it's because remember that show. So when we were driving from Utah to LA for this meet and greet, and then to go on The Price is Right, we stopped in Vegas because they were performing there, but we didn't have tickets to the shows. We didn't have any money, and we ended up getting to see the show 2 nights in a row for free. And the second night, I'm glossing over this, but the second night it was front row. We got front row tickets. Like,
how did that happen?
Their mom, some guy's mom worked at Ticketmaster and he had them and he was looking for someone to give them to like outside the venue. It was just this very bizarre, but so we got to see No Strings Attached front row, like at the height of like, that's still that's my favorite thing that's happened thus far. Even
so you gotta be thinking then, like putting all that in context that's happening before The Price is Right. You gotta be thinking that like that something serendipitous is happening. You just drive out in a whim. You see the show twice without having tickets. You go front row. There's a little bump in the road. There's a little bump in the road with the meet and greet, but you know, maybe they're just busy and that's how it is. But like, we got this thing. So now you're staying with your dad there. You're staying with your dad in the like after the show and everything. How long does it take to get the actual to get the RV? Like to like, what was the lag time? Like, you know, how like what was, you know, what can you tell us of behind the scenes stuff? Do you have to go through any hoops to get it, or like what happened with that?
So they delivered the motorhome to a lot in Salt Lake, like an RV selling place there. And then the other prizes got delivered to my house and I sold them. But I don't remember exactly how long it took for the RV to get delivered. Winter, do you? I mean, I feel like it was
a few months for sure, because we were on The Price is Right in November, and I don't think it aired until January. That's the other bummer, right? Like you're on it, but like the air date is for months. So like, I don't know, just you want to see it so bad. So I think because we didn't get the motorhome very soon before the tour kicked off. Like, I mean, I think we got it like a couple weeks before, I want to say before. So it had to have been in the spring that it was actually.
But at the time you won it, I guess the No Strings Attached tour is wrapping up. So did you have it in the back of your mind that, hey, if they tour again, we'll go? Or was there any just sort of like, or was there like, you know, were your parents, either of your parents or your families like saying like, hey, you should sell that too? Or, I mean, what were you thinking at that? Because again, there was no, like, Celebrity wasn't out yet and we didn't know everything like we do now with, you know, the way things are. So like, it wasn't even a thought to like know that they have a tour coming up in a few months again.
Well, I don't know when they announced PopOdyssey, but it was in that time span because we used that time to devise our plan to follow PopOdyssey, and we like got to work. Like we treated it as a job. We would spend 8 hours a day, like emailing companies and, you know, trying to get tickets and sponsors. And so they did announce PopOdyssey tour.
They had to have, because
that was our plan immediately.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think like, because PopOdyssey left in like when was it, summer? When was, I can't remember. We should have had these dates. But anyways,
okay. Jacob, you know, tell us when it started. He knows.
Yeah, you know.
I thought it was March or April. I think it was.
Well,
March.
That's what I wanted to say also, but then I feel like maybe I was off on that because it was a summer tour.
Right.
We were definitely gone during the summer, but regardless, I think they were touring back then back to back. I mean, it was just, they were constantly touring.
Sure. So it was,
whether they had announced it or we just assumed they were going to tour again, but we had confirmation pretty soon after the
Yeah.
motorhome, I feel like.
We knew right away. And then, but we
Yeah.
definitely, because that was our plan right away. And then we got a lot of like pushback from our families. And like my mom took us to a financial planner and they like held up this graph. Like, if you sell it now, you'll have like $1 million in 20 years. And we're like, thank you very much. But we just weren't hearing it. And we, just set to work on our plan for PopOdyssey and didn't look back.
So what about your friends, like, too? Because like, you're in college and you have, so by your reaction, I can't wait to hear this. So you already said your family is, because you've already gone through all this and they're like, okay, like this is beyond getting like cute. Like this is maybe a problem, which again, I've been saying to Jacob his entire life.
Yeah, that's true.
But what tell me about that. And you mentioned that pushback a little bit, but what kind of reaction were you getting from your friends and family?
I mean, we had to have just kind of alienated everybody at that point. Is kind of, we did have, so at the time we had a third roommate we're still friends with her, Ashley, and she because oh my gosh, like I'm so embarrassed we did this to her. So like we covered the entire walls of our living room, like our common space, with NSYNC posters, like from floor to ceiling. And like without even like saying anything. And I remember she like called a meeting and she was like, this is like, you guys either the posters go or I go. And then she moved out. Like,
Oh.
horrid.
Yeah.
It was, we were just like, we were crazed.
Yeah, we completely alienated ourselves because we were just obsessed with it all day, every day. So I don't even remember like interacting with anyone else at all during that time because people just thought, we were crazy. They weren't having it. Nobody else liked NSYNC. So like,
you're just in a bubble. Like you're just like, and plus you guys share it together and it's such a big phenomenon at the time. What was it, if we talk about your fandom for a second, like, can you pinpoint anything? I mean, was it like, I mean, was it almost like, I mean, because obviously you like the music, were you guys, I mean, you were, like I said, they were the same age as them. Was it an attraction to them? I know you said you like JC. Like, can you sort of like encapsulate, like for Jacob, if you can encapsulate your fandom and why you love them so much briefly, like for you to start? I'm asking all three of you now.
Yeah,
I'm
having a hard time with this.
Well, I mean, I'm a big harmony guy, so like like for them, obviously, I just love vocals and harmony. But then the way they like, with Celebrity, it's very modern. All the tracks are very modernized, and it sounds like something that could be released today. So I just think they took with their music and production and the people they worked with, I think they just took it to a whole nother level. Whereas maybe we can cut this out, but the Backstreet Boys kind of stayed with like the Max Martin type, like, this kind of, they didn't really elevate until like later on with all the rock stuff. But I think from No Strings Attached to Celebrity, it was just like a big jump. And I think that's what, made them them.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the two albums were very different. I will say I think it obviously started like, they're so cute. We think they're so cute, but like you don't go to that many shows because you think JC's cute. Like,
right. That's why I'm asking that. Exactly. That's why I'm asking that. Yeah.
No,
I mean, I couldn't do that speech about their music because like I've never like analyzed like the tracks and the this and the that. I mean, I like the music. I love the music, and I didn't like any other boy bands. Like we didn't care about any of them. So it's not like we loved pop music or boy bands really at the time. It was just, I don't know. We get asked this all the time and I can never articulate it really. Cause it was just this like deep, like true love, like you can't, I mean, it was hard to explain.
No, we do love music. Like I like live music. Like we love to go to shows, and like we have been to so many that are so complete opposite of NSYNC. I saw Kenny Loggins. I saw him with Loggins and Messina. So you'll that. But like so there is that aspect at that. Yeah. Like I am a firm believer, if you get a chance to see someone live, you will be a fan by the end of their show. I mean, that's not obviously all the time, but most cases. Like I think there's just something very magical about that, like getting to experience that. So 100% that we love to watch them live. Like it was just so fun. And their acapella stuff is my favorite stuff, probably. I will say, as fun as their show is, and I love to watch them dance and perform. Like I love to just listen to them too. So
no, and
yeah.
that's great. That's why I was asking, because like there's that thing. It's like it's hard to put into words why you love something or even somebody. It's just like once you get into it, it's like it's hard to take a step back and say, geez, like why am I into this so much? And like you can see from all the stuff, I'm a pop culture fanatic, and like I love wrestling, and Kiss is my big obsession too, which oddly enough, they have a movie that they did that's very similar to your situation, that this movie that
really?
Detroit Rock City, which is funny enough because I always try to make parallels, because I try to understand why Jacob likes NSYNC so much and try to relate it to Kiss. But one thing that I'm seeing here, and that I like, that is just, again, something that I'm so interested in hearing, is like you were talking about the planning aspect. And on one of our recent episodes, we actually got on eBay, I got one of the tour itineraries from the No Strings Attached tour, and it has the hotel information, and it has like where, what time room service closed, and just like all the stuff, and like where everybody's staying and what they're, because all this work that had to be done to route a tour. And I work in the music business now, and just like knowing like what's involved with that, there's so much work. So like you kind of hinted at, you guys were working at it before, you had to pretty much build it from the ground up, right? And like see where they're going to be touring. Like tell me about that. I mean, that's it's so amazing that you put all that together.
I know, and I can't believe we did it. Like it's so overwhelming, but we just kind of, I mean, for us, because we were in the motorhome, so we had their the tour schedule. And so their first show was in Jacksonville, Florida, and we're in Salt Lake City. So like we literally had to drive across the entire country to get there. And we had no idea how to drive it. You don't need a special license. We had just gotten it. So we didn't even have time to practice. But I know we had tickets to every show. So SFX, who is the promoter, we wrote them and said, if we do like a tour diary for you guys on your website, would you give us tickets to every show? And they said yes, which that too, like I think every time we wrote these people, it was like this pretend, like we
were writing to like Pepsi and Coca-Cola and like Bot Magazine and Bonnie Bell Lip Balm. Like we made this list of like teen demographic companies and just wrote them emails like from our Yahoo account, like, hi, could you please pay us to go to NSYNC? So,
but that's what's so amazing about it. I have to ask, what were you guys' majors in college? Was it related to this? Like, where did you have the intuition to do that sort of thing?
I know, I'm like so proud of us. I don't know how it happened, but I was exercise and sports science major. And Winter was, what was it like?
I had a pretend major. It was called family studies. I swear they only give the major in Utah. I think
that sounds very Utah.
My major was communication. That's as pretend as it gets. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretend. It was like, I'm going to be a mom type. I mean, I just didn't know what I wanted to do. So my counselor was like, this is a good, easy, very broad thing. So no, we definitely had zero like business background at all, which would have probably come in like handy, but also maybe not, because you just like break it down and simplify it. That's all we did. We were like, we'll call every number on this Pepsi website and somebody might answer the phone. Like, I mean, that's just what we did because that's all we knew. And when SFX like took the bait and said, we'll give you tickets, like then we were like, oh, it's on, like we are doing this, because we had tickets to the whole, the entire tour. So yeah, that was the most exciting.
Because that would have been a lot of overhead to buy tickets for every show and all that.
Not to mention the tour just sells out, like the actual act of getting them, not even coming up with the money, but like procuring the tickets would have been hard. So once we had that hurdle, there was no way we weren't going to do it.
Let me go back to driving the vehicle for a second. For the first time, did you have any accidents? What was it like getting behind there and you're sort of above everybody else on the road? Tell me about like how that was, getting used to that.
It was hard. It was because all of this, like by the time we actually had the RV like in our possession and had rounded up like how we were going to do this and all this stuff. It was like the tour was kicking off like in less than a week, and we had to drive all the way across the country. And so we ended up literally calling every person we knew to ask them if they would help us drive there, just because, not like we can't drive it, but there was no time. Like we couldn't have got, like it was, we were going to have drive constantly.
Sure.
So wasn't even our friend at the time. My sister's friend, John, just this, I mean, 18-year-old guy was like, I'll do it. We were like, really? So the three of us, and he had never driven it either. The three of us took shifts driving. Like, I mean, we just left and someone would sleep and someone would drive. We just constantly did it for like 3-4 days till we got to Florida. But Meredith had she had the worst because what was it like? Where were we? Nashville or somewhere? And
yeah, it was like I had the second or third shift, and their shifts were like middle of the night, like rural, nobody's on the road. And then it's my turn, and it's rush hour, and we're in like Knoxville, some city, and it was like bumper to bumper, and it was terrifying. I was white knuckling, and I ran those big orange like construction barrels. I hit one of those and like took out our headlight. People were honking because not only is it a motorhome, but it's also like got NSYNC posters all over it. I'm driving like an asshole, and it was just like, oh God, it was really rough.
Yeah,
I know. I do feel bad because it's actually not too hard to maneuver it if you're on an open like interstate. Like it's, people pass you, whatever, you stay in the slow lane. It's not, you get kind of used to it. But anytime we were in condensed areas, it was so hard. I mean, it was just, yeah. So
what about parking like that? Because I think of there's some venues, especially at that time, that might have been in more outside the city areas. But like if you're in the city, and like I think of when we go to concerts and there's all these parking, like where do you park that thing? What do you do with it?
That was like, half of our updates were about trying to find parking. When we go back and read them, we're like, oh, this is so boring, because it's like 3 paragraphs about how hard it was to park. But some of them, yeah. So the guy our SFX contact that would give us our actual tickets at the venue, it was the same guy that we had to hit up every time. And so I think we eventually started asking him, like, can we park, where the trucks park, or is there? So we ended up, he would help us get parking passes sometimes, but I think sometimes we just have to pay they had like RV lots. And so we'd have to just pay. That was probably where most of our money went for a while, because they were expensive.
Yeah.
To park for shows. And then what else? Did we ever park at like off site and then taxi in or something?
I can't remember. This part is all blurry, and we didn't know the answers to any of this. Like we just got in and went. Like we didn't think about any of this, and it was one of those. I think it was just like day or concert by concert. We kind of figured it out, but they did, because of like tailgating, even though that really makes no sense at an NSYNC show. But they did. There were like designated spaces for like larger vehicles at most of them, I think. So that's just what we would do, which was a bummer sometimes, because if it wasn't part of where everybody parked, we didn't get to like converse with fans. And like, that was kind of the fun, before the shows, like people come up and talk, and so there were a couple times I know that we were way far, like no one would have ever seen us. But yeah, once that first show that you get to in Jacksonville, when you pull up and you went to the show and you actually did it, like, did you, was there any part just like, wow, like, we just did this, or are we ready? Are we going to really do this and go to the next city? Or just what wasn't even a thought. We're just going.
No, I mean, from the moment we hatched the plan, there was never a thought. It was just what we're doing. Like, this is it. We're just doing it.
What about money? Like, were there any other like sponsorships and things that you got? Like, because again, probably, what was the gas mileage on that thing? That had to be brutal.
I think we got like 6 miles to the gallon or something. Like, literally, it was bad.
It was
so yeah. How much money did you leave with before you left
like
Utah for?
We really had no money.
We had credit cards. We ended up getting a publicist that Meredith found, like in a People magazine. There were these 2 college kids that were paying for college what were they wearing on their shirts, or what
Yeah,
were
they
doing?
wore t-shirts for companies, so they were like sponsored to go to college by advertising for companies on their shirt. So I was
Yes.
like, oh, that sounds like what we want to do. So I wrote to this publicist, and she loved the story, and so she kind of picked us up.
Yeah, so she had helped us get a couple, like there was like a college textbook company, and I can't even remember what else. But we had like the sponsors, but we didn't have the money yet. We were going to pick the money up like on stop 2 or 3 of the tour or something. So like we had in our head like, and it was just like a couple $1,000s. It wasn't, but it was, something. It's like, and then the whole idea was like, oh, the more media, you guys will easily get sponsored. It was, and we just assumed that too. So we left with we left with like a promise of a little bit of money, and then just an assumption that we would just.
But also, we made Winter sell her car. So she sold her car, and we had a yard sale and sold everything from our houses. And but we both maxed out credit cards. So that's kind of how we did it at first.
You didn't sell any NSYNC stuff though, right?
Oh God, no, we sold like teddy bears, like candelabras.
Yeah, right. So when you're then I guess at what point did you have the website built before you left, or what was the development of that like? Was that already done, or was that something that came as a result of you just meeting fans and people saying, hey, we want to know more about what you're doing?
We definitely put it up before we left, which like our publicist had told us that's something we needed to do. And then my stepdad knew how to build websites, so he did that for us. Because I still don't know how to do that, but then again, like I didn't know anyone with a website. Like it just wasn't a thing. So we put it up, and we kind of put like the story out there, what we wanted to do. And thank God we did it, because it was like that's how we did the whole tour. Was we would tell people what we needed, and they would bring us stuff, and they would bring us money. Like it was amazing. Like people were so awesome and excited for us. And it was really, I was like, it's really touching. Like we have some of our old guest book, like printed out, and I was reading it last week, and it's really sweet. Like, so, you get the occasional dick, but mostly it's like people were just like, yeah, it's pretty touching actually. So it was fun. So we just started we would do the SFX updates, but they wouldn't let us say anything that wasn't like, it was an amazing show, everything was perfect, so right. Those just became these stupid fluff pieces that we just did to get our tickets. But then on our website, we would like, write like how we talk to each other, which it was always just this contest to try to get the other one to laugh. So like I would do an update, and then she would read it, and then she would do one. That's all it was. And it was fun, because it was like a real reflection of our personalities, and not just
at first I didn't think anyone was going to the website, and it was I don't know how it works now, but back then you got charged. Like if you went over a certain number of hits a day, you got charged. And like once the website got out there, we got this like exorbitant bill from whatever it was for like thousands of dollars. And we were like, oh my God, like what are we doing? Because we just had no idea how internet worked. We were just like writing to each other, basically, we thought. But yeah, we ended up getting hits. And how did we resolve that bill? Because I swear to God, it was like $10,000.
It's not $10,000.
In my head at the time it was like thousands.
At the time, yeah.
I think we had to explain to them that we just didn't understand internet, and please forgive this bill.
This is before blogging was really a thing. That's what's so amazing about this. And like you said, now anybody could get a website on Wix, or there's things you could easily build a website. You can build a website from your phone if you want to. Right. But like to actually do all this is pretty remarkable. So, you guys are on. I wanted to ask about this because you alluded to this earlier, but like, you guys are significantly older, even though you're young, you're 21 years old, you're still significantly older than the other fans and a lot of your peers. And I always think about that Madison Square Garden thing when they're interviewing the people like at the show, right, Jacob, where it's just all the girls and everything. Like, were you always in and around like just like 12-year-old girls all the time, or like what, and like how did you, I guess, what was it like meeting other fans? Because this is before social networking and everything else, and you're building almost a community, and you're getting to meet fans from all across the country. So, I mean, what was that like? Was it a lot of that where they were a lot younger, or were you surprised by who you came in contact with, or how did that go?
I think I mean, I feel like more of the fans that we interacted with were our age or just like a couple years younger. But I think
Yeah.
maybe the older fans gravitated toward us because they knew we were older, and the way we wrote our updates and stuff maybe sort of appealed to that more, because that's how I feel like the people that we interacted with most were right around our age group.
I agree.
Uh,
Yeah. There's definitely, I mean, we definitely had, families come, like, parents would bring their kids over and like, so there's definitely that too. But yeah, as far as, I mean, we were so naive. Like, too, we would just like, people would write to us and be like, when you're, coming through Tulsa, you can stay with us. We'd be like, okay. And we would.
Wow.
Because we just wanted a house for the night. Like, I mean, we did that all the time. And then
Wow.
that was cool. We made friends doing it, but we just like, just trusted it was. And again, it's like it was before internet predators. So, so it was, I don't know.
No, well, that's the thing is, again, like you're still building on that community of NSYNC fans that, again, it's so easy to see now an Instagram page or whatever it is, but like, you're doing it in person, and I again, I don't think that it was as, maybe those bad people hadn't gotten to the NSYNC community yet, so maybe you were safe. But what point did management, or was it management or the label, like who from the actual like NSYNC camp reach out to you first?
It was someone from Jive, wasn't it? That's, remember, isn't it for it was for MTV, the celebrity taping, right?
oh yeah.
I want to say Janet from Jive, and I don't know what that means, but I feel like I wrote, like, we had that written down somewhere or something. So we got a call because we'd been doing a bunch of media. Like, every time we went to a city, because we had our publicist, so she was helping us do that. We were doing either local news or print stuff. I mean, we did radio, a ton of radio. And so like, people knew about us. And so when they were going to like unleash the album in San Diego, we got this call, and again, who knows if this is lip service, but she said, JC requested that you guys be there. So, which is like, that's my favorite thing ever. And again, I don't even care if it's not true. Like, in that moment it was for us.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how, right? That was kind of
That was the first like interaction with their
people
camp that we had really at all. And then that's when we finally got to meet them and sort of like explain the situation we were in, and that we needed their money.
Which was that we were broke. That's all we
screwed. So yeah, that's how we started sort of interacting with them a little bit.
Well, I'll stay there for a second. You were running, you ran out of funds then at some point. Tell me about like how that went, and just sort of how that all went down and what you guys did to survive.
Well, the main thing looming over our heads was that we had to pay $5,000 in sales tax in order to register and insure the motorhome. And we didn't have it.
Wow.
And we tried to get it before we left by any means possible, but we didn't have it. So we just got a temporary tag from the DMV and just left. So the bus wasn't insured or registered the entire tour. And like when the tag expired, we just would like slit it over so you couldn't see the month, and then just like crossed our fingers. And so we were on a temporary tag. So that was the main thing, is we needed $5,000 so we could like legally keep doing this. So that's kind of what we like, that was our big plea to them ultimately.
Which is also super awkward, because it's the first time we're getting to meet them. And we're basically like, before the cameras are rolling, we're like, we're not going to be able to do this anymore unless we have $5,000. Like, that's what
they're literally like, hey, how are you guys? We're like, we need $5,000.
God, I can't believe we were so desperate to keep doing it that, I mean, it was like no pride. Like, it was just like so embarrassing that we did that. But
did you get to meet all of them, or was it just because it was JC and Lance were with you on the bus, or to do that segment, right? Or did you get to meet all of them like separately before then?
So Joey came on to the motorhome before they started taping. There was just like a knock knock, and he came on, and we were sort of surprised, and that was fun. And that's who we actually said, we need money. But then he's like, okay, let me talk to whomever. And then he sent his like tour manager on. But then for the segment, it was JC, Lance, and Chris. So we only didn't meet Justin at that one.
And the whole reason Joey came onto our motorhome is because he had to pee. And
Yeah.
we were like in a parking lot at Qualcomm, and there's no bathrooms. There's like, and so he came to use our bathroom, which like that's why I came. And I know the joke is, I know we've talked about this before, but Justin had to go to the bathroom too. And so Joey's like, well, let's go to the RV. And Justin's like, no, I'll find somewhere else.
Oh.
Not like happy, which understand.
I get it.
I guess it's the thing. Well, how long? Okay, so again, this is what I do. I go down these weird rabbit holes because again, I'm just interested in this.
Yeah.
How long did it take Joey? Because like, there's got to be pleasantries. It's like, oh yeah, it's like it's Joey freaking Fatone that's coming to your thing, and like obviously you guys are excited. Does he like beeline it for the bathroom? Like, how long does he talk to you guys before he actually says, I have to use the bathroom?
I don't think he said it. I think he just like, they have people, like, so his person opened the door, like cleared the way, and he just like went in. And then when he came out, he sat down, and then he was he's so nice. He was always so nice to us. He's so friendly. But yeah, so there was that awkward, like he's just in our bathroom and we're both just like standing like outside the door, but then he came out, and then he was like awesome. He was, yeah. So he made us feel at ease, at least before we had to tape the segment. Like, thank God he came in, because yeah. And then we did tell him that we needed the money, and then he gave us like a signed CD, like left. We were like, okay.
Yeah, here you go. Yeah. After he leaves though, I mean, what is that? I mean, you got to have that sort of sit down and personal moment that you didn't have at that meet and greet. And this is something that's like way better. He actually peed in your house, really, in essence. Your bathroom. So like that is way above and beyond anything that could happen at a meet and greet. So, but like in all seriousness, what was that moment like? I mean, what did you think after that? You said it put you at ease then, because you knew that you were doing the segment with the other guys, right?
Yeah. I think we like hugged and cried, didn't we, when he left?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, that's what we always did whenever anyone left our presence. Yeah, and it's weird though, because it's also surreal and it's all really fast, and there's so many people because it's a taping, but we were by ourselves when he left. I do remember that, and I do remember, us. And it is awesome. Like, that's all you ever really want. Like, when you want to meet them, you don't want to meet them. You want to like hang out for, even if it's 5 minutes, right? Like, that's what you want. You don't want an autograph or a picture. I mean, I guess you do to some extent, but you want that moment. So we got that. So we were like, and Joey was Meredith's favorite. So that was big in her book too. So.
And you have JC and Lance and Chris come on to do the segment. What can you tell me about that?
It was just uncomfortable, kind of. I mean, we were so nervous because not only are we meeting them for the first time, but it's on live television, and there's like thousands of girls outside, and Carson did. And it was just like, so, I mean, if you watch that segment, we're just like, they gave us microphones. And I don't know why they bothered. We said like 2 words, and we just kept like shooting looks at each other. It was really just kind of awkward and uncomfortable, but mostly because I was just so nervous. And there wasn't really any interacting with them because they just came on like right before they started taping. And then, so.
Yeah. And we weren't given any direction. It was just like, like, Chris is here, you're here, Lance is here, Meredith's here, JC's here. And then it was just like, they came in, we all had microphones, and it was like, go, and so we weren't even really sure like what we were doing in the segment. Like, they were listening to tracks like of the album. So they would play some, and they were like dancing and talking, and, Carson was asking questions from outside. Like, but I remember there's like that. I don't remember if Carson asks like, can you guys tell us the story of how this came to, something like that? And then JC's like, well, I'll let them tell it, but then JC tells it. So then we just were standing there with microphones, which thank God he did. Like, I'm happy he did it, but I think you said a couple of things, Meredith. I literally don't say a word.
Oh, I just said, oh my God, cool, thanks.
It's really embarrassing to watch.
But I guess after that though, like, to think that like JC knew who that you were, and that he knew your story, like, to tell it like that. That had to be after that moment. Was that kind of a big thing that put you on the map to be on live TV and to be with them. Did things sort of change for you guys after that moment?
What made it, I mean, it did for us personally. Like it was huge. It was thrilling. I mean, I don't want to downplay that at all. And also it was TRL, which was so big back then too. And Carson Daly was there. Like there were so many, it was so amazing, but we didn't really like pick up doing more stuff with them until the Washington Post ran an article. That's what like really like got, because the MTV thing's amazing, but only NSYNC fans are going to watch that, right? Like no one's going to watch a Road to Celebrity 2-hour show. But when was it? A few stops later, a few weeks later, the Washington Post ran an article, and that's when like we got like the Today Show and all of that stuff happened. And so then that really opened it up. Like I felt like after we did that stuff with them, they were more like, oh, you guys are here to stay type of thing. Like it wasn't just like a one-off, Yeah. So
How long, I guess I should ask, how long did it take to meet Justin, or have you even met Justin to this day? I should ask.
So when we, just after the Washington Post ran, then we got to be on the Today Show. And so when they did the live portion of the Today Show, they knew that we hadn't met Justin. So then when we were on stage with them right before they performed, they're like, oh, we know you haven't met Justin. So they forced him to meet us finally. And so that's when it happened. And
he was super nice. I mean, he was like, poor Justin. I feel like he always just gets, like, I don't know. And no, everyone else was much more like friendlier to us throughout the tour, like, but he was just on his pedestal, and that's fine. But at the moment he was, but it's just to walk around a stage in Rockefeller Center. There's like thousands of people, like, and that's like your meet and greet scenario. Like, hi, nice to meet you. I mean, that's all that was said. Like, what else, do you say? So, yeah.
Well, what else? I guess anything else of note sort of happened? Where are we at in the tour? Is this still pretty? Is there a lot of tour to go at this point, or was this all sort of like leading up to this point, and this was kind of the crescendo of this sort of pop odyssey that you guys were on?
That was, I mean, there were still shows left after that.
It was
right?
Towards the end, though. It was definitely towards the end.
It was towards the end, because they said, like, that's when Lance said, we're going to sponsor you. And so they like surprised us that they were going to give us the money. But I do remember we didn't get the money till in between the tours. So it was toward the end of the tour. But yeah, then we were just really fired up because there was already rumors of like a European tour. Because we talked about that on the Today Show. We had already like had this idea in our head that if they went to Europe, we'd want to go to Europe and follow them, or if there was a second leg, we'd want to do it. So it was towards the end, but it was just like fueling our desire to like continue and want to do it for upcoming tours.
Right.
Was there ever a moment at any of the shows where, again, you're like, if you think about it, like I said, the tour itinerary, like the crew is going and they're working every show and they're doing everything every night after night. And you guys are going as spectators then and sitting and watching the show. Was there ever a point where you were just like, maybe not into it as much, or were you really just into every time? Or did it get sort of like you were just doing it? You know what I mean? Like, because seeing something that many times, I mean, geez, I don't even know how many shows that would have been. Were there any moments like that for you guys?
I think it was like we had pre-moments like that, right? Like where you're like, I'm tired. I don't want to deal with parking. I don't want to right? And then as soon as you got into the show, it was like all that was gone. But we definitely, and we recognized like we, just sounded bratty when we said that. And I don't think we ever missed a show though, for that reason. I mean, right? I mean, sometimes we would leave early once in a while, like if we were exhausted or if we had to leave to, drive 2 states for the next show or whatever.
And there was like a show or two that we went in a little bit late, like wearing sweatpants, but we also went to the show. For sure.
What were your seats like since they came from the promoter? What were they? Were they kind of all over? Did you ask to get like all over? Or were you in like the same spot every time?
It was a struggle to get them like at every show. Nobody knew what we were talking about. They're like, what SFX? We had to track down this guy, and So they were kind of all over the place. But once we got closer with the crew and the guy that was getting us our tickets in particular, they started getting better. So we had like catwalk and down on the floor a lot more regularly at that point. So yeah, but we did get to see it from everywhere.
That's awesome. That's really cool. And you have like, I guess I kind of glossed over this too. So if this tour starts, like, did you guys finish like your senior years of college?
No, we straight up quit. Like we really just quit.
Oh,
Wow.
No.
So that was also probably why there was a lot of pushback from your family for this too.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think that's what most of it was. Like, had we, I mean, I'm sure they wouldn't have been thrilled, like had we already graduated and wanted to do this. Like it's still weird, but that was 100% what it was. But like, again, it just makes this, we didn't do it because it made the story better, but it just makes the story, like, it puts it in perspective, like how crazy we were, like how, and I'm saying crazy in a good way, like how passionate we
absolutely,
were. Yeah. Like it wasn't that because we both were like, we can finish school at any time, like because you can. And so we were both like, we weren't excited. We didn't have like jobs lined up. We didn't know what we wanted to do. So there wasn't that lure either. So yeah, but I mean, it's kind of funny like to hear our parents tell the story now, because I think it all, with the movie and everything, it's like this fun thing, but there were some unpleasant moments leading up to it.
There were, but once we were on the tour and we started picking up momentum, like our families were super excited about it.
Totally.
My mom like pretended like she was our publicist too, and would like write back to fans on our website and like meet us at stops and try to get us more press.
Yeah.
And, I mean, they got super into it, so it was
What did you do? Like, because again, like traveling, if you have even a van or a car and going that far is a lot, but like you're traveling with this thing, you don't have a driver, like per se. You guys were driving it yourselves, right? For most of it. So like, what do you do when you have to go like get something to eat and like you have to go in like a tiny McDonald's parking lot, or did you have like go-to places that you like that you knew that you could, like how did that, or do you just like get a bunch of stuff and like groceries and then snack on them? Like what did you do for like eating and those kind of things that you need to do to kind of keep yourself fed and sane on the road?
Yeah, we had no money, so we never like went out to eat. We hardly would ever go to even like fast food. We would just go to grocery stores or Walmarts. We stayed at Walmarts a lot because you can park your motorhome there and not be bothered. So we'd end up sleeping there at Walmarts often and then just picking up like cheap groceries. And then honestly, it got to a point where like we just relied on fans would just bring us bags of groceries. And so we'd eat whatever they brought us. And it was mainly that because we were just super budget. I mean, if we went to Taco Cabana as a treat, like in Texas, but I mean, I think we hardly ever went out to eat, right? I mean, if we did, we like put it on the credit card and like really treated ourselves a bit.
And we were obsessed with food, like we still are, but like we like loved food. So it was like a weird, like, we didn't, in our minds, I think we thought, again, the whole time we were like, we're going to pick up all this money and, we'll have all this. One of our sponsors, I don't know if we mentioned this, one of our sponsors backed out like within the first few weeks of the tour. So this like money we were counting on never showed up, which is part of the reason we had no money. But yeah, I don't remember. I mean, we just figured out like even if we did go to like a fast food place, we just figured out what to do with it. And we would park far away and walk sometimes, or you just got used to it. I don't know. I mean, that's weird to think about.
That's the thing. When you say that like you dropped out of college after 3.5 years, this is so much like life experience, like accelerated life experience to get that and figuring out things on your own, but then also everything you're doing with the website and like meeting all the people and then all the exposure that you're getting and all the media attention. That's what's again so remarkable about it, and the fact that all these years later here we are, and with the movie and everything, and we'll talk about that in a second, but like to sort of wrap things up, like that first tour that you did, like that wrapped up, like tell me about what it was like going home, because you're on the road and it's just like you probably get used to that life. Like was there a moment when you got home where it's like, geez, I wish we were still out, or was it just nice to be in one location?
No, we were super depressed when we got home. Like
Yeah,
I mean, it was bad. Yeah. Yeah. There was never like the yay, we're home thing. And also we didn't really come home to like a home too, because we were, we had like we stayed with her mom had like a where should we was it a bed and breakfast or where just a
Yeah, like a chicken coop, I don't know.
so we stayed because it was temporary because we knew that they were going to do celebrity tour, and so we knew we were going to go back out on the road at some point, but yeah, no, we were not done. Like it was so, I mean, it was hard sometimes, but we loved every second of it. Like I don't know, and it's weird, we didn't really get sick of each other. Like even that was weird. Like I don't know.
No.
Oh, but that's how you knew. I mean, you guys were like almost in like just in it together, you guys kind of against the world, you guys, and well, you said the obstacles that you guys had to overcome. So you did the celebrity tour, was pretty much the same thing. Was there anything else with that? Because what did you learn the first tour that you wanted to implement in the celebrity tour? Is there anything you said, okay, we're going to save money this time? Or was it like, we know certain stops that you want to, because obviously doing it the second time, it seems like it would be easier. But was it easier because you guys learned from the first experience?
It was kind of a different experience on the second tour because we did end up getting pretty close to a lot of the crew toward the end of the first tour, and like the tour manager knew about us and was friendly with us and like would help us out now and then with like money and hotels, and so eventually on the second tour we ended up being able to be backstage a little bit. They would have us like temporary day passes so we could go and like help with the caterers, and then we eventually earned laminates, so we were like backstage for a fair amount of the tour and really like kind of a part of the crew, although we were just like idiots and didn't know what we were doing back there. And we eventually got our paint passes yanked because I don't know why, but we did. So
somebody complained.
It was Justin. It was probably Justin.
Like, what are these girls doing back here? But yeah, so we got our passes yanked, and then, but it did have a different feel the second time. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was a whole different experience because we did sort of like have it figured out as far as getting around and getting our tickets, and then we had that sort of little inn for a while, so it had a different feeling. I don't know.
Was there anything that you could tell us about sort of being backstage and everything at that time that would be interesting to NSYNC fans now? Just because again, you're back there. I mean, anything like was we're joking about it now, but you said like, was Justin like often like not dealing with the other guy? Anything you could tell us that you remember seeing, just the sort of being able to have that access, being there like during the shows?
I don't remember ever seeing Justin. I don't know if we ever once saw him back there.
I think once we did by accident, and it was like when we were like near Tony Luca's dressing room, but that was
and that's why you lost your access.
Yeah.
That was it.
That one time.
Don't ever let him see you.
That's the kind of like the funny thing about like getting that backstage access is like we became friends with the people that work the tour. It was not, like we would get to see them once in a while, and that was always thrilling for us, but we still didn't have like we were never like eating lunch with Lance, or we didn't get to do any of that stuff, but we got to like it was so fun to get to meet all those people and like have friendships with them. And they did let us though for a while, like after they would leave their dressing rooms, like when they would get on the bus and like go to their next stop, they'd let us go in and like ransack their dressing rooms, so like we could take their leftover food or like stuff like that. So that was fun.
That's great. And I guess after that tour wrapped up, were you guys planning on doing this indefinitely if they had toured again? Or was there a thought that like, hey, we did it again? Was there any feeling of like, we got it out of our system, or would you have just kept going even if they were like touring to like now, like Backstreet is?
I mean, at the time we definitely would have kept going. Like we were serious. There was murmur of a European tour, and we were serious about it. And when we said that on the Today Show, we actually got a letter from somebody that had a shipping company that offered to ship our RV over to Europe for free so that we could do it. So we were like, we would have kept going for sure. I think we were super depressed when everything sort of, you know, got weird and fell apart with boy bands and stuff. It was a really like dark time after tour because we were like super bummed out and depressed. We weren't ready, I think, for it to be over.
Yeah, it's interesting because like not only did like the tour end, but they ended as a group also, which was like, that was really because it you know, I mean, whatever the break, I mean, I don't know, I can't remember the time if we thought it was just a break, but obviously as the break got longer and Justin got, you know, his album did so well, you kind of knew it wasn't a break.
Yeah.
Was there a thought to like try to follow Justin on tour or anything? Or I don't know if he did tour like for his like first album or anything, but
I don't think that would have been well received.
no, probably not. But you guys like obviously you guys are you know, super close even to this day. So you mentioned that like there was, you know, it had to be because you guys, that was your life and everything. At what point then did you start to sort of settle in to like a new life of, I guess what you consider a normal life? You know, did you guys still sort of stay in Utah, or you know, tell me just about like how you guys settled into everything and what happened after that last tour?
We started getting after the Today Show. So I mean, it was sort of between tours and bleeding into the second tour, but we started getting calls from like production companies and things like that in LA. So I guess it must have been between tours that we started taking some meetings with like different production companies, and we ended up getting like a manager or an agent or something like that, because there was talk of, you know, selling it as a film at that time or a TV show or something. So ultimately we ended up optioning our rights to MTV for a potential scripted series and then a short documentary. So after the second tour, we still sort of had that to hang on to. So we moved to LA. So we were living in LA because of that, because we kept going out to take meetings. So then we just moved there, and then eventually the option on our rights ran out and they didn't renew it, and nothing sort of happened with that. So we held on for probably like a good 6 months, a year after tour, with like kind of hoping that something would materialize from that. But then there were just so many factors that kind of blew that all up. And then I stayed in LA for about 5 years, but then ultimately I left, and then we entered this weird period where like Winter and I kind of weren't close for a number of years, and we kind of didn't even, it was just too like hard to even talk about NSYNC or like keep track of them. Like we didn't know when they got their star, and like we're doing like little performances. We just didn't, it was like a weird dark period. I don't know.
It was like a divorce kind of, you know, it was like not, and they weren't, I mean, until they got their star and until Coachella, you know, all that started happening. I mean, they weren't really around at all either. So there wasn't even like, oh, did you see this? Did you see that? Like they just were gone. And so, yeah, it was a really, really weird. And then it's like this story, you know, I know we would tell it apart, like after you've, you know, been drinking, or like, I don't know, like you just would tell the story, and every time like you told it in the years, people would be like, what? But I don't know, it's so weird, like such a bizarre, and it's a great story, and we always knew that it was a good story. Like we always knew that, but I always just thought it was going to be just the story I would tell and people would think it's great. So it's really cool that like all these years later, you know, that Lance has been so excited about that story the whole time. Who knew? And that, you know, people are like into it, because it's exciting for us. It's so exciting. Like,
well, how out of the blue was that? Did he contact you guys? Like what happened for all this? And again, time frame. So are we talking like, so before, was it like 2018 when they got the star and all that? Like before then, you guys still weren't, you know, talking regularly and in touch and everything. So tell me about, like, what sort of brought this whole story back to the forefront after all this time.
Yeah, I mean, it literally was just out of the blue. I think it was 18 years after we had last like talked about it or, toured or anything. And then I was living in Charlotte, North Carolina at the time, and Winter was still in LA, and I was teaching, and I got a text like on my break period from a former teacher that I worked with in Utah. And she sent me a link to an article, and she's like, tell me you're getting paid for this. And I was like, what do you, and it was, like Lance Bass making a movie about super fans. And it was the most surreal experience. I honestly thought that it was like a 20-year-old link. Like maybe they were talking about the MTV stuff. I honestly thought that, because I was like, no, like NSYNC is not a thing. And so I clicked on it, and sure enough, it was like our entire story. And so I immediately texted Winter. I'm like, what is going on? And at the same time, she had gotten that same text from another random friend across the country. So it was just like a very surreal, just out of nowhere moment. And then all of a sudden I got like 6 different links in my inbox getting texts, all these different articles. And we were like, what is going on? We had no idea what was going on. None.
Yeah, it was weird because I remember getting on the phone, and again, we didn't even talk on the phone ever, right?
Never. I know.
On the phone, like, what is happening? And like our names are in the article, so it wasn't like it was us, like the whole story was us. There was no like, this might not be, and it was this weird like thrill, but then this like really like heavy like, oh my, are we getting not taken advantage of, but like, like this is our story. Like,
sure, yeah.
So there was both of those emotions, like, and we just didn't know what to do. Like, what do you do with that? Like, we were like, should we tweet at Lance? Like, we don't know.
And I was ready to get a lawyer. I was like, we're lawyering up. We are taking this on.
So I was at the time a personal assistant for the CEO of Sony. And so I sent him the article, and I just was like, hey, can I have a few minutes of your time today? I like have a couple of questions. And so he ended up getting a hold of me with the head of TriStar, which is their movie company. And so they basically were just firing questions off at me. Like, have you guys had any contact with the band? Like, has anyone tried to get a hold of you? Like this whole thing. And I'm like, no. And so they told us that because it was like a well-documented, publicly known story, like anyone can make a movie about it. So like legally, like he can, but it's like highly unlikely someone would do that if the people were still alive that are involved. So they were like, can we reach out on your behalf, like to him and, see where this is? And we were like, yeah. So it's just the most random, because then he gets a call from like the head of TriStar. It's like, which thank God. I mean, because I still don't know how we would have even gotten a hold of him besides like sending him like an Instagram message. I mean, I don't know what we would have done. So it ended up working out. And obviously they're the ones that are going to make the movie now. So that all just fell into place as well. Which obviously they had that was their interest all along, clearly, too, which is great, which is fine. That works out for everybody. So it was this very, very bizarre. I mean, he's probably so weirded out by that as well, because all he had said was it was just an idea he's always wanted to do, but nothing had been done on the project. So, it was a statement that he had just made. And so, yeah, it just all, again, like it all just lined up perfectly. And yeah, it's just really exciting. So.
So what have you been involved in any, like any writers or producers or anybody that's developing it interview you guys? Are they trying to get more out of the story? Is there anything you could tell us about that? And anything about it being developed in any way?
So we had an initial meeting with Lance and his producing partner, and then the head of TriStar and Sony. And that was the first, like, we all sat down at a table and talked about it. And they talked about their sort of vision for how they wanted to tell the story. And that was just the initial meeting. And then we did get a lawyer and sort of did all the paperwork and sold our rights and but then it all kind of just came to a halt, and just lots of things happened that just dragged it all out. And then obviously COVID. So there was a good year of like just waiting and not knowing what was happening or if it was happening. And then in February, TriStar finally like announced it and publicly greenlit it. And then just in October, they announced their writer. I mean, just like not even a week ago, they announced that they finally hired a writer. So it's just been a lot of just like waiting and hoping. And we would hear from Lance every now and then. We would kind of reach out just like, what's going on? Is the project still alive? But now I think it's starting to get rolling now that they've hired this writer. Our official role will be consultants. So I think we'll kind of consult on the script. But that has yet to happen. So hopefully soon.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll hire you guys to like cut out pictures and to decorate the RV and everything. Maybe you guys should do that again.
Yeah.
I know that's kind of our joke. Like, what does consultant mean, really? But we will see. It's fun though. I'm super excited that because we have they have our rights, right? Like we sold them, so like they can do whatever they want. But Lance is like so awesome and he's so gracious and he like really wants us a part of like telling this story. And I'm so excited that Rachel Bloom's going to write it, because I don't know if you guys are familiar with her, but she's so funny, and she's like, that was our thing too. We wanted it, the story's great, but we want it to be funny and to be, like sarcastic and like poke fun at us. I mean, it's like, and so I am so excited that she's going to write it, because I think she's going to knock it out of the park and make it so good. So yeah.
Well, that's amazing. It really takes the story like full circle for you guys to be actually working with Lance now, to be like, how does that make you feel to almost give, like, I don't want to say, because like I feel like I don't want to say the wrong thing here, but like it almost validates all those risks and everything that you took. And again, you guys did it when you were young. That was the time to do it. And just to throw caution to the wind, I guess. But like, how does it feel like having that come full circle, and it almost validates all those choices that you made when you had your friends and family probably thinking you were crazy at the time, and now it's kind of culminating with this film.
Yeah, I mean, it's just full circle. It like finally feels complete and right. Like I was never really okay with like that being it. I mean, it was the best time in my life, and I'm like, it was amazing. I wouldn't trade it for anything. And if that were just it, that's fine. But it just didn't ever sit right with me that was the end. And so when MTV kind of killed our project back then, I was like, no, like this isn't right. So it is very validating, and it just makes sense. Like it just feels right. It feels complete now, because I mean, every time we tell the story, people are like, oh, no way, this has to be a movie. This has to be a book. I'm like, I know. So finally, like it feels awesome, really.
I think too, there's like that really like fun aspect of like, us like trying to get close to them for so long. And then now this like, like not trying to get close to us, but like, oh, well, we want to tell your story now, or he wants to tell it. I love that part. Like that is so like, you just don't feel crazy, like, right? Like it's, I don't know. It takes away the crazy fan part from it, even though we were, and we obviously 100%, but so it makes it, and it is weird, like with him, because it's 20 years later and we're adults now. And so, we're not like at that level of like freaking out around him, but that still exists in us. And so you just once in a while, you do have that, so it's very surreal, but exciting. Like, I'm so glad that it's still thrilling to get a text from him or that's still, it's exciting. It should be always. I hope it's always exciting. And, so.
What do you think when you look back, because obviously you guys have different lives now, and what can you sort of like map back to that time? Like what did that experience do for you? How did it set you up for life, as you have it now? Maybe it's something that you learned from that experience. Maybe it's something that you like with just like you said, like figuring things out on your own. What can you kind of look back on that and saying, because of that, I have the life that I have now? Is there anything like that you can think back from that time that really applies to, you could kind of give credit to, your life as you have it today?
Yeah, well, Winter touched on before the love of live music. I think that tour really birthed that for me. And when we lived in LA together, we were going to shows 5 nights a week. We would go on music cruises. I mean, that was a huge shift in my life and my passion. But more so just it was my first experience with like manifesting. And like I really it really shifted my sort of life view on sort of how things happen and how you really can manifest your own destiny and like actually how to do it. And so I've taken those lessons and put them into play in my life. And yeah, it's always a reminder of like, oh, you can do this. Like if things are hard or scary, I just look back at what we accomplished and I'm like, oh, like I got this. Like you can really literally do anything. So it just shifted my whole sort of perception and mindset as far as that stuff. And that's just been a huge, blessing from that, I think.
Yeah. And I mean, I would say the same thing about the manifesting. Like 100% law of attraction, 100% like follow your passion. And I think that's what it is mostly too. It's like those feelings like that we had back in the day for them, that fueled everything. And so like, that's kind of where I am always never quite gotten back there, but try to like get as excited about something because like then you're just where you're supposed to be. You're in the right vibration. You're like open yourself up to attract into your life because you're just so happy in that moment. And that's how we would be so happy listening to them or watching, and so that's what I take from that and what I try to do because there's nothing like that. It's so powerful. And yeah, I'm like so grateful that they did that for us because they totally did. So yeah,
it's amazing. And it's a lesson too, like following what you love. And you said that motivating you. I mean, there's a lot of lessons. I think that's who knows what they're going to do with the film creatively, but like, I think for me, just talking to you guys, it's actually a really inspirational story from you going, and it's almost like there's an innocence to it where it's just like, yeah, we're going to go on a game show and win money to do this. And then you do, and it's just like, we're going to go on tour with them and you do. But like with that sort of those big dreams that you had, you also put in the work. And so we're going to go and we're going to like pound on the doors and get sponsorships from these people. I mean, so there's a lot of lessons here that I think could apply for anybody starting a business or anybody who wants to do anything and wants to like make that happen, because you guys are really like proof of that. So it's such an amazing story, and I can't thank you guys enough for sharing it with us. Before we sort of wrap up, yeah, of course, before we wrap up, like where can people find you guys and keep up with what you have going on and sort of see some of your old clips and that kind of thing?
Well, we have an Instagram, but is it my name first or your name first?
It's yours first.
Mine first. It's Winter and Meredith is our Instagram. And we're trying to get better at posting stuff. We have so much, like so many old, like just mementos and pictures and stuff. So we're like slowly, trying to get stuff like that up there. We spend most of the time trying to come up with a funny caption. So usually just weeks before we come up with something we think is funny.
Still again, trying to make each other laugh.
Like that's all we're trying to do every time, still to this day. So, so yeah, that's where we are. And yeah, it's fun. It's fun to like, I didn't even have an Instagram account before we started this one. And so I had no idea like all of the fan accounts that existed, so it's kind of fun to like, I mean, I only probably follow a handful because I get so overwhelmed when I even start to look up how many there are. But it's fun. It's fun to see what everybody posts. And it's really fun that people are still so into them. Like I had no idea. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you guys so much for everything. Please follow Winter and Meredith on Instagram. And I would love to see if you guys have it, like if you have those old like website postings and everything. I think that's it. Just seeing, if you go to the Instagram, you could see the actual moment when they won on The Price is Right. All, like there's just so many cool things there. The Today Show piece, really highly recommended. It's a piece of NSYNC's history that obviously is going to take on a life of its own now. So it's really well worth it, and it really just, your story is just so amazing. So thank you again.
Yeah, thank you, girls.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank
It was
you.
nice talking to you guys.
You
Yeah.
guys too.
Yeah, so
You
great
guys.
talking to you.
Okay, we'll see you soon.
Thank you for your time. Okay,
Yeah,
Bye,
thank you again.
Bye.
take
Bye.
care. Bye.